Come in, Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
You betcha we're live. Mike Alexander. Jonathan Wilson back with us from the Low Country.
That's right. I was spending some time in South Carolina.
He was.
In my hometown.
And we got Josh Jacobs here.
Thank you.
The varsity is back on the field. The season,
right.
The fall is here, and we're ready to go. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. We're delighted to be back with you, especially after a 2-week hiatus. You're listening to tapes. It was the summer doldrums, so we took a couple of weeks off. A couple of weeks off from politics is always a good idea. And in fact, if you leave your cell phone at home, it's an even better idea. You actually get to recover from some of this. You know, now that the fall is back, you probably want to weigh in on things. Today, that is the first week of September, is really the beginning of the 2020 presidential election, because the Labor Day is always the beginning of the political year, and we're now in the 1-year countdown. Of course, we've been in it since Barack
November
Obama.
2016.
Well, yeah, and earlier when Barack Obama and everybody was trying to avoid this happening. In any event,
it's true.
There's a huge amount of action out here. If you want to be part of our program, and I know you do, please call us at 866-870-5752.
And by the way, I want to give a shout-out to the Patriotic Singles Group. I just came from a cookout in Pasadena.
All right.
Catherine was kind enough to host all of us patriotic singles. So if anyone's still sober over there, feel free to give us a call.
Love to hear from you.
It was a very tame group.
And I think it's the same Catherine I've known for quite a while.
Yes, we've known Catherine for quite a while.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan was over there. You know Ryan.
Yeah, I sure do, yeah.
And Anjali. I'm
all
not sure
right.
if you know, yeah.
Hey, great. So
Good group.
All of you, almost say Catholic singles, patriotic singles, be sure to call in. We'd love to hear from you and what you're doing. And we have a great issue for you. It's the only issue that really matters here, and that is school choice. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, we cannot expect to take our country back if we do not first take back our children, their hearts, their minds, and their souls. Our problems in America, I submit, started 100 years ago with mandatory schooling, the formation of the public school system under progressivist ideas. We've been at this for 100 years. We haven't improved. We haven't progressed at all. We're going downhill, and electing Trump for another 4 years isn't going to do us much good, or even electing Republicans or conservatives all over the country if we don't take our kids back. Because as fast as we take our country back, they are taking the future back from us through indoctrination in the schools. And so, as all of you out there know, and many of you are joining us and listening to us for the first time, but our signature issue for the next couple of years is school choice. We were going to do it in 2020. Instead, for 100 reasons, not the least of which is the presidential election that is sucking attention, time, money, energy, volunteers right out of the atmosphere. We decided that we would put it off until 2022, build there, and take this tremendous conservative momentum in 2020 and translate it into effective political action in 2022. And that means taking passing our Educational Freedom Act. We're going to have a special guest on in a few minutes, but because he hasn't heard from me just yet, I will. In fact, the gentleman's name is Andrew Patterson, who was part of the steering committee for one of the previous voucher initiatives here in California back in 1992. Was Proposition 174, and that too was a voucher initiative. The key features of this initiative, Andrew, is as follows. Following the passage of the Educational Freedom Act, the state of California will establish an educational savings account for each K through 12 child. Number 2, into that account will be deposited the average per capita funding under Proposition 98 out here. That is the basic constitutional amendment, which allocates roughly 40% of general revenues in the state to so-called education. So, number 2, each child would get that per capita amount. That currently is about $12,000 per year. Although per capita spending in the state of California is actually in excess of $17,200 per student. Number 3, that amount, that scholarship, that credit, educational credit, can be spent by the parents to send their child to a school of their choice, whether it's a public school, private school, charter school, or, yes, boys and girls, a parochial school. That'll drive them nuts. And number 4, here's the kicker. Anything you have left over, you can use for vocational education, other qualified educational expenses, or for college. So if you don't use it in K through 12, you can keep it and go to the school of your choice, no matter where it is. This is not means qualified or anything else. Now, this voucher effort has been tried in California a couple of times before, and so to get a little bit of background on it, we're very fortunate to have on this evening Andrew Patterson. And Jonathan, why don't you give a little... Andrew, are you there tonight?
Yeah, I can hear you, Mike.
All right, very good. Andrew, welcome to the program. And Jonathan here was apparently at this... Was it a singles event?
Just about an hour ago.
All right.
I was talking to someone about school choice, and they said my former husband was part of the steering committee in 1993. You should give him a call. So here we are.
Here we are.
And he's in Virginia, by the way, so
All
he's
right.
kind enough. It's a lot later there, so he's kind enough to stay up a little bit late and talk to us.
We sure appreciate it. In fact, I have two...
That's fine. I can offer you a lot of tactical information that could be valuable to you rather than get into the ideological pro and con.
Sounds good. Fire away. It's your show.
Well,
tell us what your experience was, what your takeaways were, and what would guide you if you were attempting to do what we're doing.
Sure, yeah. So there are a couple of real tactical, hard-nosed lessons that we learned. One is they're going to throw the book at you, obviously. You're going after the crown jewels.
Yes.
Not just for the teachers' unions, but the entire Democratic Party nationwide.
Yes.
Because you are going after the probably number one funding source for the entire party.
Yes.
So not only will they go after you in the campaign, but they will undermine you on signatures, on the positioning of the initiative in terms of which election in 2022. So you need to go in eyes wide open on what the Secretary of State, what the Attorney General might do to finagle you into or detour you into a special election or into the June primary rather than the November election. There's going to be lots of game playing going on. So that's number one, is you need to think tactically how they're going to use the chutes and ladders of getting on the ballot to throw tacks in the road. Secondly, because of the teachers' union involvement here, they can pass simple assessments that are funded over 3 years from teachers' salaries to raise money within a week. So in our case, they raised $12 million back in 93, so that's at least $30 million in today's money. Instantaneously.
Yes.
So that's the second lesson, is they're going to be able to raise money instantaneously. The third lesson is the one that we learned the hard way, which is you may want to think about giving them multiple targets to shoot at rather than one statewide initiative. Now, this is going to take some study, and I'm sure you're getting some good people thinking about this.
We are.
While you are framing an initiative for the statewide ballot, you might want to try this in some counties just to draw fire to multiple different locations and in counties that might be more favorable. I'm raising this as a tactical play in that it gives you a chance to test out the language, gives you a chance to test out public receptivity, because you're going to learn things about how to present this to middle-of-the-road voters, which are substantial in California. Mm-hmm. You don't have to worry about the far left. They're never going to vote for it no matter what.
No.
You don't have to worry about Republicans. They will vote for it. So you have to target a lot of your campaign at the middle.
Right. But okay, great. You finish out your presentation. I got several questions. I'll ask you after you finish. Very interesting. Go ahead.
Yeah. So Mike, the middle. Here's some keys to framing this properly for the middle. Number one, never use the word voucher, because that word gets manipulated in all kinds of demographic ways that you don't control.
Right.
So vouchers take money away from public schools. Vouchers will end up funding goofy kinds of schools. It all gets wound up in really vicious anti-initiative advertising that you will never control, and they will have plenty of money and a loudspeaker to get out there. So, like you started, I would continue to use the word school choice and the word scholarship. Mm-hmm. Education savings account is fine. I like the word scholarship a lot.
So do we.
Because that's really the intent of this. Mm-hmm. So, if to the degree that you can, never use the word voucher. It's politically loaded, and it plays into the opposition's hands. Mm-hmm. So the other thing I would do is I would get together with some of your other hosts, like Larry Elder and Dennis Prager and whatnot, and have them interview some inner-city representatives who are suffering the most.
Yes.
Under the current public school choices. The opposition will try to frame this as a suburban raid on the public school system. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
That's how they're going to attack you. Mm-hmm. So you have to get some of their constituents in the impoverished communities to come out in favor of scholarship.
Yes.
It can't just be Republicans talking about this issue. That's death.
That's great. We'll come back and talk about our efforts on that.
Yeah. So those are some of the main learnings, the hardcore tactical lessons that, really don't get into the ideology,
sure.
But get into the tactics of how you anticipate what the opposition is going to do.
Yes. Yeah, we quite agree, and we have a lot of experience with a lot of these unions. There's one thing that I found very intriguing about this, and the answer to this question that I have for you doesn't make any difference, but are you an attorney?
No.
Oh, okay, yeah. And the reason I mention that is that what we are going to be undertaking is a constitutional amendment in order to offset the effects of Proposition 98, which deals with public school funding here in California. And I'm not sure whether the counties would have the ability to adopt this provision in light of state law, which is between the constitutional amendment, Proposition 98, and extensive legislation regarding the employees who can work in schools, who can't, given the amount of pressure on charter schools it seems to me, and I haven't researched it at all. I'm a lawyer by training. I don't do this kind of law these days. I work in entirely different areas, but we've looked at it, and so it's an appealing thing to maybe try to launch school choice in Trinity County, California, which would embrace it, or maybe Kern County or Fresno County, conservative San Joaquin Valley areas. But I was wondering if you have a feel for the constitutional issues there, or whether it could be done. It's fascinating.
Yeah, a couple of things. I agree with you, Mike. You have to do the legal research on those issues.
Yes.
But my point was a political, tactical issue, which is whether or not it's allowable in the county, these, quote, dry runs can be useful for smoking out the tactics of the opposition, even if the initiative or the measure at the county level doesn't work. You sometimes discover ricochet effects.
Oh, yeah, totally with you.
Otherwise could not anticipate.
That's right.
So let me give you an example. When we did Prop 174 in 1993, the charter school measure was suddenly freed up in the state legislature. We did not anticipate that. But it turns out that even though we were defeated 2-1 back in 93, there are now 1,000 charter schools, which I understand that's not the ultimate goal here. But the point is, you learn that there are unanticipated, some positive effects of this entire action, whether it passes or not.
Right.
And we were told by opponents, by insiders, that the charter school measure would never have seen the light of day in the state legislative committee process until we qualified Prop 174 for the ballot.
That's right.
We did not anticipate that when we framed the initiative.
No, I can see that clearly. There's all kinds of things that they will all of a sudden start to do. Here in this state, of course, there's a lot of people who do enthusiastically support the charter school movement. However, as I tell them all the time, the charter schools are dead. They're gone. They're history. If you don't support us, there won't be any charter schools. We now have, as you know, a one-party state, and they're going to do the bidding of those unions, and the unions don't like charter schools. They're not going to keep them. Now, if we launch, that'll sure as hell take the heat off the charter schools.
Yeah, that's a very good point. But let me make one distinction that you should look for,
yes,
Mike, and that is the union leadership does not like charter schools.
That's right.
Some of the teachers do. Not all, but some do, and those can be allies in the effort.
I think that it's been 25 years since the last effort here. Things change, and you'd be the first to say that we're no longer fighting the same battle in the same way, or even the same people that we were 25 years ago. In fact, I and friends of mine were out there making part of the Speakers Bureau back in 94, going wherever we could to support this. I was proud to support what you guys did. I don't recognize your name, so I'll just give you a belated 25-year later thank you. Attaboy.
Right.
Great work. So we're just, we're picking up where you guys left off.
Well, there were a lot of people involved, so
there sure were.
There's some more distance to run here, Mike.
There sure is, and one of the things that we know is that up to 1/3 of public school teachers actually have their children in private schools. In districts that are poor, almost 100% of the teachers in the bad districts have their children in private schools.
What a surprise.
Yeah, what a surprise. I mean, they're the ones who are best informed. They know the system better. And there's, and the other people who are intimately familiar with what the system isn't, is, of course, their customers. And here we're talking about overwhelmingly about Black and Latino families as a percentage of the school population. Of course, Blacks are in retreat; they're a declining percentage, but the Latino parents are stuck in like everybody else in failing schools, and they are in the worst of the worst. I believe that we will have no trouble getting support from those parents. And perversely, I believe that the place where we may get the most vigorous option will be from affluent suburban school districts and precincts whose schools are working just fine, thank you. So I could point out.
No, I think that's very valid. They don't want the cart to be upset because it's working for them.
Yes.
And I would add, you need to make some outreach to the Asian community in that regard.
Oh, yeah.
Because they don't want the system to be upset if it's working for them.
That's right.
So you need to find a message that's empowering for them, because they're very involved in every school at a local level, and it's not a partisan issue for them. It's all about the future and options for their kids.
That's correct. Yeah, we're in several very strong, predominantly Asian communities are right here in our vicinity: San Marino, Arcadia, San Gabriel, Alhambra, increasingly El Monte, where a lot of them Asian families send the kids over there for a variety of reasons. Roland Heights, we've got a lot of those areas here. The message, and now the other area here. How long have you been back in Virginia now, Andrew?
Since '98.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you've been back there 20 years. You went back there about the same time my sons did. Out here, the left-wing agenda is pushing forward incredibly, and one thing that has people from every walk of life, every religion, every economic stratum is this sex education, gender bending, you name it. Perversion on parade is being taught to youngsters down as low as first, second, and third grade. That very
ridiculous. Well, obviously, the Asian community would be up in arms on that issue.
Absolutely. So we have a lot of things that have changed out here. The schools are even worse than when you guys launched the initiative back 25 years ago. So we have a lot of things that have changed on the ground. School choice is now a national topic. You hear Trump talking about it. Mark Levin talks about it a lot. Dan Bongino. You'll hear Rush Limbaugh talk about it. It's been wonderful. I noticed that we're coming up. How many more minutes do I have here, Jeff? Less than a minute. Hey, I don't want to keep you awake. It's 11:30 your time right now.
No, I'm a night owl, so don't worry about it, Mike.
Okay,
so
well you want
up to you.
Okay, you want. Let's stay through the break if you're available. We got a break coming up here. Love to keep talking to you about it because this is our signature issue. And anybody out there who would like to talk to him about it or talk to any of us, 866-870-5752. We'll be back after the break. This is Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Radio Free Los Angeles. Back with you shortly.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
Back with you here, Mike Alexander, Jonathan Wilson, Josh Jacobs, Radio Free Los Angeles. If you'd like to be part of the program, you can call us at 866-870-5752. We're talking about school choice, and as long as we're talking about it, Jonathan, what's the message?
Yeah, everyone listening needs to go to californiaschoolchoice.org and sign the petition for school choice in California. Our goal is to get 1 million signatures by January 2021, so a little over a year. If we can get 1 million signatures of support, we have a very good shot to make this happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Those are digital signatures,
Digital
of course.
signatures, and it's really taking off.
Yeah.
So again, that's californiaschoolchoice.org.
And while you're on there, there's a place, once you sign, there's a place you can send it to a friend if you've got one. Send it out there. If you've got 5 or 10, send it to them. Can you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. The only way this is going to work is if it goes viral. So
Exactly.
we need everyone signing and then everyone sharing on social media, emails, forwarding to everyone you know.
CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org, and you go there. There's also a place where you can demonstrate your complete sincerity by giving money, whether it's $1 a month, $5, $10, $20, or $100 a month. That's what we need. You just heard our guest, who we're back with now, Andrew Patterson, who was part of the last California initiative, then called the Voucher Initiative in 1990. School Choice Initiative in 1993. Went down to defeat 2-1, but the point of it is there were 1/3 of the people, and as Andrew pointed out to you here in the last segment, there was a lot of money that came in from, of course, the real stakeholders, who are the teachers unions particularly, and, of course, the Democrat Party, whose vested interest in the maintenance of the status quo is self-evident. Andrew, the other thing that we talked about was not using the term voucher system because it's so easily perverted. We really very much agree with you. We like the scholarship, the use of that concept, and in the draft of our version, even though we talk about the program provisionally, the initiative provisionally as being the Educational Freedom Act and referring to the Education Savings Account, we do liberally intersperse the draft initiative with the word scholarship or scholarship credit. We think it's a very strong word. I quite agree with you. And it's something that a lot of kids in the community understand because they're getting scholarships all the time to go to universities for athletics or arts or something like this, or they're able to get additional education in that area. When you guys use the word voucher, you got attacked.
We didn't.
Oh,
The
you
name
didn't.
of the initiative on the ballot was School Choice Initiative.
I got you. Okay. All right. But they tried to label it voucher and then misconstrue the term. What were some of the things they said or to confuse the use of that word?
Well, sure, and that you will face that, and you will be sued if the initiative passes.
Yes.
So you just need to plan on that, and that affects the wording of the initiative.
Yes, we've already had it reviewed at a constitutional level. You know who John Eastman is, Claremont Institute. He's the head of their Claremont Center for Constitutional Jurisprudence. Yeah, so
sure, that's the level of analysis that you need.
Exactly.
Just plan on the attack.
Yeah,
they will attempt to rebrand it as a raid on public funding.
Yes.
They will trot out the notion that all kinds of goofy schools will be established and funded under this.
I hate to give those guys any credit.
No, they already know the play. They already know the playbook, Mike.
They do,
So,
no.
The irony is here's the irony is
Yeah.
today without this initiative, public schools cannot deal with a lot of disabled children.
Right.
They use vouchers to pay special institutions to handle disabled students today.
Right.
But they don't tell you that.
Right. Exactly.
So there are a number of angles here that are very important to bring to light. The other one you mentioned in the previous segment is that not just the teachers have their kids in private schools, but I would focus on the teachers' union leaders.
Mm-hmm. And the administrators.
Who put their children in private schools. We caught on tape the vice president of the California Teachers Association back in '93 actually saying in public debate that she puts her grandchild in a private school because it's, her grandchild.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. She said that in a public forum.
Right.
And I think she realized, that she had committed a gaffe.
Whoops.
Out here in Washington, D.C., a gaffe is when a politician accidentally speaks the truth.
Right, exactly. Yeah, you know what I was going to say, when I say I hate to give these guys credit, what I was going to mention was that I still remember one of their ads. And that was somebody come up. It was a TV ad, of course, that came with some absolute goofball there and called him headmaster. Right? Remember that one? It was totally effective. As I say, I hate to give the SOBs credit, but I've got to. That one, they're really quite able. Andrew, the other thing that's changed out here on the ground in 25 years is the fiscal situation here in California. This is one of the root issues of that we've dealt with in the Tea Party and the California Taxpayers Union, and that is the declining fiscal condition of really the federal government, almost all state governments, and certainly local government here in California. And our pension systems are underfunded somewhere between $1 to $1.5 trillion. And the California State Teachers Retirement System is part of that. And because of union policies, which tends to hire more people, and the impact of having to fund the pension system at greater levels, we are starting to see a decline in education quality, and we're going to see a reduction in the number of teachers, or expressed another way, a steady increase in the number of children in class size. We start to see more of that. So,
those are two critical issues. Let me give you a couple of tactics.
Sure.
That are very much related to this. So, number one, the point you mentioned about the fiscal situation is already bankrupting Chicago and Illinois and a lot of urban areas where they don't have a growing population back east. So you're going to see more headlines in this regard before you see them in California. Mm-hmm. It's an impending crisis that you're referring to.
Yes.
And so you could take the high ground if you did a clever thing. Again, this would not be favored by the purists, but if you studied or reviewed an approach in the initiative where any scholarship applied to a private school would be 80% of the current value, some of your adherents would not favor that. But let me tell you, it gives you a tactic in the argument to say, actually, the public system would gain for every student that makes a private choice by retaining that 20%, which could go to reducing class size.
Andrew, we've already done that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Now, in this way,
it's useful inoculation.
Yes. No. You're absolutely right. Right now in California, and I know that you and Jonathan will exchange contact information. When we do that, I'll send you the link to the portion of the governor's current budget dealing with education, and there it shows over $80 billion coming out of all sources here in California that goes to so-called education in California. The actual per capita spending from all sources, including Prop 98, which is that 40% funding deal,
Sure,
40%, all sources is over $17,000 per year, 17.2.
Which includes administrative costs that don't go to the classroom.
Oh yeah, it was the whole load of garbage there. Our program is limited to Proposition 98, which is that 40%, and
right.
that brings us up to 12,000. So right now, our proposal is 12/17, which is what roughly.
Well, it's about 80% because state funding's $80 billion, and then there's another additional $20 billion.
Right.
So so that
we did that quite deliberately.
Yeah.
Sure. We continue to pound away at that argument.
Yes. No. Great advice on that.
The other thing I would do that you mentioned, Mike, is I would spend a lot of your advertising and outreach efforts on the class size issue.
Yes.
That's an issue everybody cares about, no matter which community that they're in, and it's not a partisan issue.
Yes.
So the more you can get away from partisan third rail, electricity issues to common ground, the more you're going to be able to get the middle voter.
That's right. Yeah, and we also have something that's quite we have good argumentation here available to us. This, by the way, credit where credit is due. This particular initiative was developed through people involved with the California Policy Center here in California, really good people. And there is a Senator, John Moorlach, you may recognize his name, John Moorlach in Orange County, who worked with a group of constitutional lawyers and others to develop this and introduced it as a bill in the California State Senate, basically to get vetting, right? So It got refined several times. The group that was originally behind this declined to move forward with it. We were ready to back it because we're huge on school choice here. When they didn't, we decided to move forward with it. And we found that that class size is important. But what we really liked about this was how simply it could be explained. It could be explained very simply in English or Spanish to anybody, any young mother, young parent, or anybody else. They can understand it quickly. And once you say that that $10,000 or $12,000 per year per niño. To the parents to send to school of your choice, including a parochial school. That's the end of the discussion. I mean, you're home free with that.
No, it's a powerful argument. You're right. The other thing I would do on class size is you'll be pleased to discover that you can peel off a few teachers.
Yes.
Who with this issue, because they're the ones on the front lines that are enduring the greatest strain about this.
Yes. Yeah, no, they are absolutely, and they're bearing the brunt, or so they think. And for those of us who are the special pleaders who talk about teachers not getting enough money, which is a load of garbage, but I won't go into that right now. But we have easy math. So you got 25 kids in the classroom, 15 fewer than we had in Catholic school in the 50s.
Right.
All right. So you got 25 kids. Just take $10,000 a year, and you got $250,000 a year going into that classroom. For $250,000, you can't hire a good teacher and have money left over. It's nonsense. So the numbers work well for our argumentation. And we know that we're going to get hit hard by everybody. In fact, we're fully convinced that Vladimir Putin and George Soros themselves will come out here because of what is at stake for the left. And this should be the signature issue for all conservatives and really for any Democrat who gives a damn about the future. And there are a lot of Democrats who care. And those are, I call them small D Democrats.
I think in California, what are the numbers for independent voters? 40%?
Yeah, if you look at California, I'm convinced most people
more independents than Republicans.
That's great, by just maybe a few dozen right now, but it's roughly 2-1 Democrats, right? In other words, 2-1 Republicans and independents versus registered Democrats. I submit to you that this is a Democrat state in name only, because of how politics operates and the allocation of power and the manipulation of the vote. But down deep, California is a combination of a conservative state and a progressive state, in the sense that we love the future and we want to get there, and we're not particularly ideological about how we do get there. We embrace the future in California. We are now and always have been the future of the country. Yeah,
I would go back to Hiram Walker, and before World War One. As an ardent reformer of the current system, which is part of the California tradition that is not partisan.
That's correct, and we talk about all the time that the only reason that we have the initiative in California is because of Hiram Walker and the progressive movement. And sometimes we joke that it was the only good thing to come out of the whole damn movement was the initiative process, right? And here we have it. Here we are.
Yeah.
Well, Andrew, you have been very generous with your time this evening and your wisdom, your experience. You're showing us your scar tissue, calluses, blood loss, you name it, and we're proud to pick up where you guys left off. But we hope, I know that you're with us, and we look forward to brainstorming with you and taking shameless advantage of your experience and your good advice as we move forward with this.
Well, you're very generous, Mike. I'll give you and Jonathan a few more names to touch base with.
Thanks very much.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for coming on, Andrew.
Take care. Talk soon, Andrew.
All right. Stay in touch.
See you. So we have been very pleased and appreciative to have Andrew Patterson on with us here for almost the last hour, talking about school choice. We'll return to that, but looks like our caller woke up out there. We have our audience on one. Brent, how are you this evening? Shalom.
Hello, Mike, John, and Josh.
Shalom.
Shalom, Brent.
Shalom. I guess Andrew's taken off?
Yeah, he did. Yeah, wonderful guest, huh?
Yeah, he's some heavy-duty firepower.
Oh, yeah. He's back in Washington now. I don't know what he's doing now, but I'm sure he's doing well at it. He's a very experienced guy, and one of those people who've been at it in California, and we never stand still out here. California is a state that's always in motion and always headed in a place different than anybody might imagine. What's on your mind tonight, Brett? We're getting close to 9 o'clock, but I'll hold you over and let you finish.
Oh, that sounds great.
All right, fire away.
I mean, there's been so many things, but with what you were talking about with school choice and that I like the tactics of Andrew, but I think what we often fear and we often don't give enough energy to is the heart, the emotion, and the passion and the anger we should be building in parents to expose and make it much clearer what exactly is the definition of progressive democratic love for children, the entailment of pedophilia and infanticide, and the absolute hatred they exhibit towards children. They don't want to teach them anything. They don't want truth. They don't want ethics. They don't want reality. They want a science, which is actually science fiction and science fantasy. And so they're not teaching the sciences. They're not teaching English. They're not teaching right and wrong or civics. And so parents should be outraged of not just how much money we're throwing into the toilet on education, but where is the outrage towards the abuse of children day in and day out?
That's right. Well, I think that the circles in which we move and the media that we consume, many of the books and journals that people like you and I might read or consume, we find that these ideas have a currency that they lack elsewhere in our society. These ideas that they argue are arguments that could only take place in the faculty lounge, or maybe in a legislature or some salon. But these are not conversations that are taking place in manufacturing or in the typing pool or in the factories. Line workers of various sorts. This is not how ordinary families live their lives. They reject this experimentation and all of this political correctness. Their own experience tells them otherwise. And you could talk about all these ideas, but when you take the an average guy who's Juan and Maria Ramirez, who are working hard. Man, a lot of people in this world earn their money the hard way. I know it's hard because I earned my money as a young man the hard way. There's nothing easy about it. I did manual work, and these people don't have any patience with this nonsense. And you tell this guy who prides himself on being a man and working hard, you tell him that you're going to teach his little boy that he can be a girl, or something in between if he wants. Why this guy rejects it? Not only is it not common sense, he's angered about it. So I think all the anger and frustration, Brent, is out there. It's just that we have too many conservatives and really too many Republicans who are running from their own shadows and running because they fear the anger and the judgment and the reprisals of the liberal media and of the banshees in the feminazi movement and all this sort of thing. We Americans don't want to run around chasing people down because of their sexual preferences. You do what you do in the privacy of your home. You got your problems, I got my problems. Don't bring them into the classroom, right? All we want, we used to have don't ask, don't tell, right? We don't want to hear about it. Well, there you go. We moved from that to where we are, and that has people ticked off. And, it's not like we didn't know that people, had problems. And now you want to extend that agenda into full-fledged attack on our future. So we, unlike other people, other parties, including the Republican, including the Democrats, we can go to them and we can say, hey, look, what we're offering you people here is a recognition that neither party has been doing it for you because, hey, government can't do it for you and it never will. But what government can do is to give you the resources that you need to get the tools that you need to compete in this world because they know what we know, and that is they're going to have to rely on themselves. Now, Brent, I want to keep you over the hour, if you would. I'd love to hear your response on that. This is Mike Alexander, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Wilson, back from the Low Country, Radio Free Los Angeles, 866-870-5752. We'll be back with you after the news at the top of the hour.
Southern California. This is Radio Free Los Angeles. Do you copy? Repeat, do you copy?
Now transmitting from behind the Iron Curtain in the People's Republic of California, we bring you the voice of free men, free markets, and limited constitutional government. Welcome to citizen-sponsored Radio Free Los Angeles with President of the California Taxpayers Union, Mike Alexander, and editor of the Taxpayer Gazette, Jonathan Wilson.
We are live. Thank you, Jeff. It's good to be back with you, Jeff, one of the great boardmen down here at KRLA, and our wonderful call screener. Wake up in there, Brooke. Wave at me, honey. There she is. She's waiting for your call here at 866-870-5752. And, of course, Basil Hoffman, we always want to thank him when we come back on for that great introduction. He's a great patriot in addition to being a great actor. And, of course, we got Josh Jacobs and Jonathan Wilson here. We're fully into our fall kickoff here. We've had a strong first hour on school choice. That is not going to be the only thing we're going to talk about tonight, but we're going to finish our conversation first with our stalwart, loyal caller here, Brent from L.A. Brent, how are you?
I'm doing great.
All right.
Yeah, well, we were talking about a lot of things, but one, what made me think is it's amazing. Trump has proven what courage can accomplish. When you just have enough courage to open your mouth and say what's real and common sense and true. And so many Republican politicians, this is their greatest sin, is that they have kept their mouths shut, whereas the Democrats are active destroyers. The Republicans seem to be very passively destroying and accepting. And so we have to demand courage from our side, and we need to throw the words of the left right back into their face. Instead of choosing what they want to choose, we need to choose and demand to choose science, ethics, truth, God. As far as children's rights go, they need to be able to choose truth over lies and reality over race.
I think we have an unprecedented opportunity in all of these eras, and without waxing too philosophical or overstating the case, I think there is a significant chance that 50 years from now, perhaps sooner, we will look back on this era, so-called Trump era, the era of Trump, or this transitional period. I would say it starts really with the election of Barack Obama, who launched the Tea Party movement and so forth. And I think that the last 10 years and the next 10 or 20 years will be seen as a period of great reformation in politics. We see the Democrat Party something profoundly different than what it ever was. Obviously, this is no original observation on my part. It is almost common wisdom that the Democrats are an extreme party, and yet they seem powerless to resist their worst impulses and to resist the siren call of socialism and extremism and progressivism, whatever you want to call it, Satanism on top of it. There seems to be no extreme that they are capable of rejecting. Over on the Republican side, we have the great Tea Party movement, which is still alive and well. And not only it gave us the Congress in 2010, it also gave us Donald Trump in 2016. And if you don't think that's sticking in their craw, you're mistaken. And they've had to spend the last 3 years trying to lie their way out of this election and trying to keep his reelection from happening. And yet at the same time, the Republican Party itself has resisted this, just as the party structure has been unable to resist the centrifugal forces in its own party. The Republican Party, party faithful, think Mitch McConnell, Ryan, and these two goofballs that are running against Trump, they seem entirely resistant to sensing where it is that the electorate is taking them. And there will be a reformation of the parties. And that reformation here, ladies and gentlemen, is taking place right here in Los Angeles and California. And when we look back 20 or 30 years from now at the great political reformation in the United States, they will say that it started with the Tea Party movement, it continued with Donald Trump, but it reached its apogee. It reached its zenith with the school choice movement in California, which decided to go back to zero, go back to where we started 100 years ago, regroup, reform this process by first taking back our children, their hearts, their minds, and souls, taking that back from the government. Otherwise, this great impulse to socialism is inevitable, right?
I think the operative word that you brought in is soul.
Yes.
We are reclaiming our soul. And
yes.
Many people aren't aware of it, but they know something's wrong. Many good people, they're good by habit, and they often don't look back and go, well, how did I get here? And we're now being forced to examine our most fundamental principles and recognize what we demand is to reclaim our soul. And that's what socialism, the problem with socialism is it's soulless.
Yes.
It's empty. It's dead. And
so is republicanism. Yeah, can anybody tell me what the Republican Party really stands for? Is this smaller government? No. Is it free men? No. Free markets? No. Limited constitutional government? No. Now, I know they like to give little speeches about it, but when we look at the legislative outcomes, they're very unpromising. And in the extremely limited support that Donald Trump has received on the legislative side from Republicans is embarrassing. It is just embarrassing. They can't
That's
even.
Cowardice.
Oh, it is. So I believe that the Reformation is underway, and I think, Brent, that we're going to find so many people that we currently call Democrats and tend to think of as our opponents. I think we're going to find them very strong allies as we take on the great challenge of the century. And just as Americans found a common cause among themselves when fighting off the menace of Nazism and later on in the fight against the Cold War, I think the Democrats, Republicans, all of us Americans will find a way to come together to have that conversation. Brent, it's always great to have you. Good, it's good for us to be back. And now I know I am back because I got to talk with Brent on Sunday night.
2 weeks. That's like 2 years in totalitarian years.
There you go. Hey, and everybody out there, Jonathan, if you believe in this whole thing, what should they be doing?
They need to go to CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org and sign the petition. And Brent, I don't think I've seen your name come through as signing the petition. Have you signed it?
I double check it. I thought I did.
Okay, well,
be a Democrat. Sign twice.
Or 3 times.
I'll get that on the website.
You might have. I always look for names that I recognize.
Go through the obituaries.
It's right on the website.
What's that?
It's right on the website.
CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org.
CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org. We need to get 1 million signatures in 15 months.
Right.
Okay.
Of course, now, don't get the wrong impression out there, folks. Brent has been a supporter all along. This is just the latest little thing that we're doing. This nation.
To be fair, we keep moving around a little bit.
We have.
Repositioning ourselves. So.
To be a moving target.
Yeah,
we are. We're on the attack.
We're going to stay on this target for a while, though.
God bless, Brent. Thank you. Next up, we have Carlos from Carson. How are you this evening, Carlos?
Well, very well. Just very amused at listening to your talk here. I really loved your efforts in the school. What you're doing, trying to bring back a healthy school system that does not brainwash and liberalize our kids.
Hey, Carlos, you are hitting your dial pad either with your chin or finger or something like that. And I'm getting that a lot. Beep, beep. So there, you're clear now. Go ahead.
Is this better? Okay. No, I really loved your efforts in trying to bring about a healthy school system.
Thank you.
That is not leading to the erosion our kids' minds, which is really causing the liberalization that's taking place, which is really causing the debasement in our society. It's causing the destruction, really, of the family, the traditional family unit.
That's right.
You know, the school systems are teaching our kids to that the traditional family is not viable, or there's different modes of having families, a homosexual family, and all that does is bring confusion and to our kids.
Hey, Carlos, I got a question for you. If you don't mind my asking, how old are you?
I'm 71, but
okay, I'm the same age I am.
I'm an old man. I'm a Vietnam veteran. I'm an old man, but I'm still at it here.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
We're both veterans. I got you. You know, the reason I ask that is that means that we are both of an age that we grew up during the 50s and the 60s. And at that time, it was possible for a man to get a job. A lot of women were still working at home, and especially if both people worked, they could get ahead, they could get a house. And the average working guy and gal with a family of 2 or 3 could find themselves a house somewhere here in L.A., in the Valley, in the suburbs, somewhere, and support themselves, pay off a house, set some money aside, so forth and so on. But the economics of supporting a family are astonishing. And, of course, you didn't have to have a college education during that time. Most of our contemporaries did not go on to college. There were just a certain percentage of us that were always going to go on to college because you needed that because you were headed to one of the professions, engineering, law, medicine, teaching, some business administration. But most students were not headed to college, and we sure as hell didn't end up with that same kind of debt. I look out at the average working guy whose last name these days is Garcia. But I look at the average working guy out there, and I don't see how that fellow can make it, and certainly not with the quality of education that his children are getting. We're not giving them what they need to succeed, and at the same time, we've enlarged government. We've increased the level of regulation. Everything is more expensive. Housing is more expensive. Government is not there to make life easier for the average guy anymore. And that used to be the calling card of the Democrat Party. And for a while, I thought the Republican Party was going to get more concerned about that. But I'm not seeing it. How about you, Carlos?
Well, I came to this country from Mexico in 1958. I came in legally. The whole family came in. I was 11 years old. But at the time, I remember one person supported the whole family very well. Had a house, a car,
right?
Going to school, and it was usually the men. Not all the time, but it was 80.
Sure.
It was preponderance of men, really.
That's right. Traditional families.
Yes, but I believe that there is what I would call the New World Order, a cabal of very powerful people who wanted to start really debasing our society. And one way of doing it was to start manipulating the economic factors, whereby everything, they created inflation deliberately to force the women out of the home because the husband usually could not sustain the family anymore.
Yes.
The woman was driven out of the home, and since that happened, of course, do
you mean the man was driven out of the home?
Women's liberation movement.
Yeah.
And since that happened, the family unit has fallen apart.
That's
it's
correct.
Part of the New World Order plan.
And yet, you and I know from
family unit.
You and I know from our experience that it doesn't take a village, but it does take a family, and families are powerful working units. And I think a lot of times when people look at those who have succeeded, somehow they look at it and say, oh, well, that's white privilege, or you were lucky, or, hey, you guys just had money and you inherited or some such nonsense. No. What it conceals is the fact when you see black and brown success and white success, whatever the hell it is, you're most often looking at strong families who hold the line, teach the kids, and then help each other to advance in this world and do not have their hands out to the government, because that doesn't work. But families work, and that's why they're tearing at the family, because until we end the family, we can't substitute the state. As mother.
Well, the state will become a substitute for the family.
That's right.
When we reach this new the fulfillment or the culmination of the new world order state.
Yes.
And they've done that admirably, broken up the family. But they used the women, really. They manipulated the women by giving them all these by appealing to their ego.
Yes.
And telling them, don't you want to be successful in life? Why should you be tied down to a man? Be your own person. Become a professional.
Right.
And look what's happened to our society.
I know.
60% end up in divorce now. 70%, and because also the new world order is creating.
Then they get old.
Women.
They get old, they get lonely, and they're alone because they left behind the only thing that could actually meet their personal needs. Carlos, thank you so much. We appreciate you having you on tonight. And Linda from Burbank, I wish we could take your call, but we can't. We've got our Government Grifter of the Week award coming up with Juan Tierra. But why don't you bring Juan on? But while we're doing it, Jonathan, why don't you give a shout out to some people that have been on here signing up for our for school choice?
By the
here.
way, I don't think Linda in Burbank has signed our petition.
Oh.
Linda, before we get you on next week, you need to sign our petition.
CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org.
That's very easy to sign and show your support. But just tonight, we want to thank Bruce for signing. Kenneth just signed. Michael, Ryan in Pasadena, Houston signed today. We've got John, I believe he's down in Orange County. Mark and April over in Culver City.
Yes.
We've got Herb, Victoria in Pasadena, Deborah, Denise, Rob, Keith, Karen, Elizabeth, LaPortia in Inglewood, Robert, Olga, and Donald. And the list just keeps going.
Keeps going.
Anyway.
It's really starting to pick up. And I want to thank Jonathan Wilson here for his special efforts over there in getting our Nation Builder platform up and operating. We're expanding on it.
Mike, we're getting ready to explode.
It
you know,
is.
I've been going to events the past couple weekends.
Yes.
Everyone is ready for school choice.
That's it.
Yeah.
And you out there, we need you out here to keep this doggone thing going. And to show you what we're up against, we have Juan Tierra. Juan, how are you?
Well, just great, Mike. Good show tonight.
Hey,
Good
well,
show.
Thank you very much. We're
Guy
glad.
from Virginia was terrific.
Hey, wasn't he?
Sure was.
A grizzled veteran, man. He was there 25 years ago. Yeah, right.
Do we still have the music for the grifter?
Hey, do we have music in there, Maestro?
And now it's time for the weekly Government Grifter Award. And here he is, Le Mesure Juan Tierra.
All right. Hey,
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I've seen. Of course, I get the preview on this, but I've got one that you're going to love that you might have missed. But she's going to get special mention at the end.
Okay.
But I just want you to go ahead and fire away here. This is what we're up against, folks.
All right. Every week, this show examines governmental waste and corruption. Usually, we talk about large, well-known entities like the City of Los Angeles or the State of California. However, often operating in the shadows are other governmental bodies, large and small, which exhibit the same tendencies. After receiving a tip about a very small water district with ethical issues, your humble correspondent did some investigation.
And you are humble.
Most of the time, yes.
Yeah.
Credit is due to our esteemed colleague, a friend of this show, Mr. Eric Chan,
Yes.
for bringing to light the saga of the Sativa Water District. Mr. Chan, by the way, currently is elected member of the San Gabriel. Oh wait,
that's what they call it, not us, right?
San Gabriel County Water District Board of Directors, which at this time he assures me is scandal-free. We'll see about that.
All right, we can hope.
Our sources this time are the LA Times and Fresno Bee newspapers. Here are the nominees. First, the aforementioned Sativa Water District, a small private one located in Compton, only 1,600 homes, which has had problems for years with financial instability, nepotism, and poor water quality. Here are some lowlights. At one point, a few years ago...
Lowlights versus highlights. Okay, I got you. We're tracking.
Yeah. A board president hired his wife and stepdaughter, and they proceeded to grant themselves illegal Christmas bonuses.
Oh.
They got slapped on the wrist. The last straw came in 2016 when a different board president had his medical bills paid illegally with district funds. Now, there was some hanky-panky with altered meeting minutes. It was somewhere between $216,000, $2,160, or $216, depending on which set of minutes is correct.
Yeah.
That district has since been taken over by L.A. County.
Oh, yeah, there's an improvement. Right. Why are we not encouraged? Right.
There you go. That'll take care of things.
$216,000 in medical bills with phony minutes. Okay.
Yes.
All right, number two.
Moving up north for the Fresno Bee territory, the Westlands Water District, located in Fresno and Kings County, was not only in the water business, the mortgage lender business.
Amazing.
It made a $1.4 million loan to one of its top executives so he could purchase a home, a riverfront estate, actually, in Walnut Grove.
Oh, isn't that special?
Well, this house is 150 miles from the district headquarters.
Commuting distance. Don't be so petty.
But he did pay interest. Less than 1%. 0.84%.
Well, we want to show how much we appreciate our public employees.
That's a sweetheart deal you can take to the bank right there. Okay.
Yeah.
And a third and last, Panoche. This is P-A-N-O-C-H-E.
Panoche.
Water District.
Yeah.
Okay, Panoche. Located in Fresno and Merced counties. Relatively small, ensnared with a major scandal. And state order in 2017 revealed that between 2013 and 2015, the district had given interest-free loans, $86,000 to some employees. And some employees with those good old district credit cards used for personal spending.
Oh.
Including but limited to season tickets to Oakland A's and Raiders games.
Hey, all right.
Katy Perry concert tickets, as well as rental retail goods from Ralph Lauren, Nike, and Sunglass Hut.
Nothing but the best.
One employee used district funds to buy 2 slot machines for $5,000, which were delivered to Reno, Nevada.
What?
Come on, jokers!
This guy's a high roller.
Right.
5 district employees have been charged.
There you
go.
The
winner is, where's that?
Drum roll, please.
And the winner of this week's Government Grifter Awards is...
Panoche.
Oh, yeah.
The deciding factor being taxpayer money spent on slot machines.
Yeah, those slot machines, those are special. I
Joker,
like it.
That is great. Yes.
Hey, Jeff, how long do we have? Okay, you got a minute 30. So we have a late entry here into the Government Grifter of the Week award, and this nomination comes from Inglewood, and the Inglewood mayor had a $342,000 a year assistant escorted out of City Hall. She looks more like an escort, but at any rate, yeah. Well, this guy had hired this gal here. What's her name? Melanie McKay Dickens, a former campaign worker for Inglewood Mayor James Butts Jr.
Wow,
yeah.
Is that a picture of her right there?
Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
Oh, yeah, he's styling.
Holy mackerel.
Yeah. So, at any rate, it was a fun ride. So this gal started off on the campaign team. Here,
Shazam.
she and of course she comes on. She gets $73,000. She goes up that in 2013, and by 2018 she's up to $289,000 a year. They walked her to the door. To no one's great surprise, she hired Carl Douglas of O.J. Simpson fame. So this girl, from the looks of Butts, she earned it. Right? She's, by God, going to get vindication in court. Juan Tierra, as always, we appreciate
What a
it.
show.
That music
Yeah, that
means
was great.
we're over. Radio Free Los Angeles, Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Wilson, Mike Alexander. Come back next week. Go to CaliforniaSchoolChoice.org. Sign up, circulate the petition, and give me some love. They call it money. See you next week.